I'll just quickly ask.
Yes,
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank
And that'll be $2, please.
All right, so I think we are good to start now. And so welcome everyone to Meshery 11 meeting. This meeting is held every Wednesday. It's a weekly meeting, and we talk about all the issues and PRs being worked on in the Meshery repository and related projects. So today too, we have a couple of items to discuss, and I will request all of you on the call to mark your attendance in the docs that I've shared in chat. Also, like if you have any item to discuss, please do make sure you write them in the docs itself. Also your name. So we'll be discussing these topics, but before that, let's follow our Layer 5 tradition, and that is if you are joining this call for the very first time, so you get to introduce yourself. So I'll be looking for newcomers in the participants list. So like I'm familiar, Ibrahim had joined, one of the previous newcomers meeting, but I'm just curious whether or not it's his first, Meshery dev meeting. So Ibrahim, like, is it the first time you're joining this dev call? If yes, do you mind giving your intro?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep. Hi, Ibrahim.
Yes. It's not my first one. We were talking about me, or?
Welcome to the call, Mavrin. I was so like we all know that you're no longer a newcomer. So I was asking Ibrahim. So Ibrahim is unmuted, so I think he would be giving his intro. Like just a heads up, like if you have any, audio or bandwidth issues, you always can introduce in the chat too. So let's wait for 10 seconds for Ibrahim.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hi.
there he is.
Hi. Hi everyone. My name is Ibrahim Bazira. Based in Nairobi at the moment. I'm a software engineer and DevOps engineer. Previously, since 2019 till early this year, I was working at the Linux Foundation, and currently I'm working at Mr. Wiser. And I'm here to contribute on anything backend.
Thank you for introduction, Ibrahim, and yeah, hopefully we'll get you some items to work on. So just for other folks, like, Ibrahim is also a fellow Gopher. So thanks once again for introducing. All right, let me take a look if we have any more newcomers. I don't think we do. Yeah, so let's get rolling with the topics. So first item is from Uzair, who is on the call. So Uzair, do you mind covering your item?
So the first time is about the imports of helm chart. So currently the situation was that if you go into playground and try to import a helm chart, the helm chart gets imported, the resources are like available for you to use, but there was a weird naming convention being added by Meshery server, that is this dry run release. The suffix was getting added after you import a helm chart. So it is not ideal, and instead like we should use the exact chart name that is the part of the helm chart. So the fix was like a minor fix, that is the way we dry run the Helm chart to convert templates to Kubernetes connector. So there was a hard coding of like dry run release. So I just needed to change it to use the chart name. So this was the first item. Hopefully no questions around it. And the other one is so we have like Meshery dashboard, and we have also have meshing controller, which always scans your cluster, and as soon as there is a new changes detected in your cluster, those are like represented inside this meshing data table. So like you have like a couple of filters available, and to filter upon the kind. So right now, if you are in playground, you will experience a bug inside this kind filter, that is like it doesn't respect the filter that you apply. So the fix was the fix for this was merged yesterday. So after when we release a new Meshery release, it will be available for you to use. So this included like we were not using the states properly, and also uh, what should happen as to like the state update changes were not getting reflected in the UI, that was like causing bugs in the meshing data table. So these were the two items for today for me. Any questions or thoughts?
So thank you, Zad. So like anyone of you want to ask any question like on whatever Zad just shared. So now is the time you can ask. So let's wait for 10 seconds. All right, so I'll be sharing my screen once again. So next item is from Abid. So Abid, yep, he is on the call. So Abid, do you mind going next?
Yeah, sure. So my agenda is basically about having a proper test suite in Meshery UI, so we can test all the features that we have in Meshery. And it's also would help in testing the extension points and anything that depends on Meshery, so we will get both out of it. I've tried to write a bit of formal architecture for it, and what kind of tools we are going to use and what kind of tests we are going to use. So I'll go briefly over the objectives for it. So basically, the architecture that I'm proposing is to help us get the better coverage. So I'm trying to get the best coverage out of the minimal time we have, the effort we are going to spend on it. I'm trying to achieve the best coverage we get, and also like different kinds of coverage. So we also want to catch bugs in different kinds of areas, because Meshery and its extension points don't use just a single technology. We use React, we use Cytoscape, and sometimes we use state machines, because we use these different kinds of technologies. We can't just have one tool to test it. So we need a bit of amalgam of all of these, and also a proper prioritization to which tests we want to test more, because some tests give us more benefit and more coverage and are less flaky. Some tests are more flaky, like the end-to-end tests are, and take much time to write. So we need to prioritize each of these and get the best coverage and best security out of these tests. So that's the goal of this architecture. So we have different types of tests. Like we can have end-to-end tests, we have unit tests, we have like functional and non-functional tests, those who test directly the specs of the design, and others are like the performance and usability, that kind of stuff. So our first goal will be to get to functional tests, so we can get all of the user behavior tested properly, so we don't have those kinds of bugs. Then we can move on to the non-functional tests like performance tests. So in the first iteration, I'm trying to achieve the functional tests. So this is just like what are functional tests and not. So I'm trying to do everything. Like we're not going to just focus on single kind of tests like end-to-end or integration, because the problem is like integration tests, like all of these different kinds of integration testing, like that I'm sorry, like these functional tests, like the unit testing, integration testing, and end-to-end, someplace they fit pretty nicely and they give the best bang for our buck. But when we try to use them where they don't fit, they just end up being flaky and we have false positives and we get like we just don't take any advantage of the test and we need to take them down or do something stupid with these. So that's why I'm trying to define the scope for each of these tests so we stay in those scopes and get the best value out of these tests. So like any questions till now?
So this will cover the this integration testing will be like based on Playwright and it will cover the much of the UI thing. But for the use case of like, for example, in Meshery extensions, we have state machines. So they have also a framework laid out like how to test the machines and the different uh, the states and the parallel states or child states. So is it that we'll be only using Playwright or there would be two type of tests, like one for testing the logic of the state machine itself and like, what is the set duration?
Yeah, so like these are mostly for the UI, but you're right, like there would be mostly some tests for the actual UI, like the HTML nodes and canvas and the other kind of tests which will test the state machine logic, like if the state machines are transitioning properly and the effects are getting properly done. So we would have the two types of tests. So I've written that down here. So first, we'd like have these unit tests are pretty simple. These will test the foundation units like the utility functions and all of the pure functions that we have, which are shared throughout the code base. Like we have some function for translating some design to pattern, like all of those kind of stuff, which are just pure functions, don't depend on any network requests or don't depend on the canvas or any side effects. They are easy to test because we can perform a black box test. We just need to put some input and just assert the proper output is given back. So these are pretty easy to write and don't get flaky. Like if it works, it works. And if we don't couple it with the implementation, they don't break even if we change the implementation until the contract is still there, like what the function was supposed to do. If the contract is still there, these tests won't break easily. So if we spend some time here, it will give us benefit in the long term because they won't change pretty often till the requirements don't change. So I'm proposing a black box approach to these unit tests and just the foundation units like the utilities, data transfer, and guards and predicates that we have throughout the code base. We can test this. So just basically these are the easiest to write, and by being the easiest to write and having on these foundation units, we would usually have a high quantity of these tests. And then we would usually have the integration test, which would basically test a pipeline or process of these functions. Like if there is a workflow throughout in the application, we test the whole workflow. These workflows can be used in bigger workflows or in the throughout the user journey. These are still reusable workflows, but are still like 2-3 processes deep. And we are going to do basically an integration test for this. This includes the state machines because state machines go through a process and transition. So we can't test just a single step of the state machine. We need to test a whole trace or path in the state machine. So they're like,
Separate from
yeah.
Yeah, like these testing strategies like will definitely help to catch bugs and regressions. Another like related to this testing is like my concern about like, so we have like number of plugins enabled. So do we want to test those as the initialization of working of those individual plugins independently, or will be good if we are like testing like we will cover that part in the integration testing itself. Like if we, for example, like if some of the plugins are enabled Node HTML or layers plugin or the bubble set. So do we have a control, or does the Meshery extensions work if we like disable one of the plugins, like if the one of the plugins that is not loading or has not initialized correctly? So
Yeah.
are we
So
also considering these scenarios?
yeah, basically like there's two parts because we are trying to control that whole logic of the enabling and disabling of the all of those plugins, also using these state machines. So then we can easily like either mock them or like we don't want to do any mocking basically, but we can disable them and we know like what would happen if that is disabled. But the plugins themselves are logicless because we put all the business logic inside these actors, and when we are testing these, we know what we are expecting if that is disabled or enabled, because we don't directly test the plugins here. We test it using these state machine, and they have the logic if it's dependent in, like if the plugin is dependable on it. So I think we will do that here rather than doing that in kind of isolation for each of the plugin, if that makes sense. So for these state machine tests, use these integration tests for state machines, I'm thinking to use the model checking approach, because that pretty much fits for these, because we're testing the transitions between states and checking if the states are getting transition properly, and if we have the proper extended state after doing a transition. That pretty much fits to the model checking approach. And there's an already a library from XState test, which is a model checking library for testing these workflows and complex processes. So we can leverage that here, because if we just use then we want properly define, we need to define the spec first, like go here, then send this event, then wait for this, like if this event is received back. So that's pretty hard to do in vanilla jest or so. This would help with that. The XState test is just a model checking library. I will link this down. And at the top, we'll have the end-to-end test. This is like testing the user journey. Like you in these end-to-end tests, we'll only have knowledge that the user has. So we won't have any knowledge of the actual application logic or the business logic. We'll do stuff that the user usually does, so we can know the user doesn't end up breaking something or some function doesn't work for user. So this would have the knowledge that the user has embedded, and we can still use like we can like mimic the user by like using DOM methods. And for the canvas, because like these playwright and any kind of testing library doesn't have pretty much nice support for canvases, so we'll still use Cytoscape to interact, but we'll just do the user level interaction. We won't end up using any business logic there or checking for that, because that is already tested in the integration tests. We just test the user journey. And we can sometimes also test the like inspect the web requests if like some interaction doesn't have any visual effect. Then we can test like if the network request is made, if that accompanies it. So this is like would be kind of the pyramid for us. We have the most unit tests as the base, and then the integration tests, and then the end-to-end tests. So end-to-end tests are pretty much the slowest, and the unit tests are fastest. So these help with the developer experience also, because we can always run whenever we change some function, we can run the unit tests, and they are pretty fast, like 1-2 seconds, and we'll know like nothing has broken. And during a commit, we can run an integration test and the end-to-end tests, so we know we are always passing these tests. So I've write a little bit of summary here, like what testing framework we are going to use, and this is like a proposal. So if you have any other proposal, you can put.
Thank you, Abid. So if anyone is familiar with Playwright, or like, or wants to volunteer with, helping in this testing, and also like if you have any question, so now is the time you can unmute yourself and ask. Abid, like for you, there are some questions in the comments. So I wonder if you want to take a look.
Actually, we can move on. I will answer them in the chat, so others have a chance to discuss.
Yeah. So I'll be saying my screen once again, and then next item is from Ritik. So update on challenges mockups. Ritik, do you mind going next?
Yeah, sure. I'll share my screen. Right. So by the time my screen is visible, so as you know, like we are working on creating or a new functionality in our Meshery cloud to add a learning path as well as the challenges. So like we discussed a lot about this learning path and the challenges in the previous meet. So if you want to know more out, you reach that, like you can watch the recording of a previous recording of this meeting, so that you can get more information about what we are going to do. So this was just a summary that we are adding a new functionality for the learning path and the challenges. So you can, there will be contest upcoming, and first will be a CNCF challenge, and there can be multiple challenges upcoming. So I was working on creating some of the mockups for that, and Akshay is working on the implementation part. So I'll just continue with where I left. So and with the new mockup that are created. So in the previous meet, like some mockup that some steps that were left, like what happened when a user submit their a task, particular task in a challenge. So there can be multiple tasks in a particular challenge. So like I have worked on that, and the other parts were like the admin facing leaderboard. If you want to see the, if admin wants to see the statistics of how many people joined or attempted the challenge, and what was the average time. So yeah, I'll just go through the flow quickly. So like this was the step where this is the description of the task. So if a user clicks on the open design, will open the design in the playground, or if a user click on the finish task, we will just ask them if they really want to submit the submission. So if user clicks on cancel, then they can be over here, and if they click on the submit button, we will be taking users to this submission page where because there can be multiple submission for a particular task. So depending on that, like we will be showing like different in a table different submission that user has made. And if user wants to know more about the particular submission, they can click on this submission button, and they will be taken to this page where we will show the time taken, score, or what time the user has submitted, and the YAML code. Maybe we can show the YAML code of the design that user has created. And if user wants to see the how this code will look like in the playground, they can just click on this open design button, and they will be taken to the design in playground. So if anyone has any question till now, you can ask.
What does that error status mean?
Where error, okay, yeah, like if the user completed the particular task, like all the checks gets passed, so then the status will be accepted. And if there are errors, like when you deploy put some component on the canvas and there are some checks that were not passed, like there will be if there are some error or something that happens, so that status for that submission will be error.
Thank you, Ritik. So I
Yeah.
wonder if anyone has any. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, like a little bit. And another one was the statistics for the admin facing. So yeah, this option will only be available to those who are admin. So inside the statistics, they can see all list of all the participants, and by just clicking on the row, we will have a nested table inside which we will be showing the number of tasks inside that particular challenge. And here you admin can see the time taken, score, and we can have multiple statistics uh, as well over here. But this option and this will not be visible to the normal user. They will just see this data table where they can just see the time taken and the score of other participants. So yeah.
Yeah, related to this, like, so the challenges that Deepika showcased, so it also has a requirement for assessing the challenge. So suppose there is an challenge which requires deploying eager observability tests and everything. So like as user has defined, started creating a design and started deploying things. So we want a way to verify like how are these like are these challenges like completed, or like to score the task or assessment, we need a logic around it. So we are thinking of like using our existing Meshery concepts like policies and OPA. So we use like policy evaluation engine, the OPA, open policy agent, and we have like this kind of framework around it. Like currently it is specific for like design. So whenever you are in like design configurator mesh map, every request that you make, every change that you make is evaluated against the policies that are registered for like all models. If you want to like learn more about like models and everything, you can refer to the with docs.meshery.io. Hopefully, like someone would like point the link to it in the chat. So similarly for the challenges, we want a way of like the desired output, the desired outcome of the challenge, and the current state of the challenge. So based on that, like we are thinking of using Rego policies to verify those. So and there is another solution as well, like using Cuttle. So most of them like might be, I think, Ibrahim or everything be aware of like how to Cuttle and how it facilitates a similar purpose. So we are like in the middle of like deciding the framework. So if anyone of you on the call has some uh, suggestions or any ideas over like how to proceed or how we can do the assessment. Ibrahim, like, are you aware of like open policy agent or the Cuttle framework or any views around it?
Yes, I'm aware of OPA. It is a policy agent. Yeah.
Yes, so, you are aware of?
OPA, yes. I've been designing some relationships also.
Okay.
So thank you, Uzair, for making that call to volunteer. So probably we will be taking this discussion into Slack. So others who are interested and have thoughts can sound off in Slack. So thank you, Uzair, and Ritik also. So hopefully, like if any one of you have any question or suggestions about the flow of the challenges that we discussed, that Ritik discussed, make sure you drop that in comments or in Slack or discussion forum. So let's go to next item, and that is from me. So it is about catalog metrics. So right now in Layer 5 Cloud, so by the way, if you yet don't have any account, in the Layer 5 Cloud, so make sure you do. You would need to fill the form and you will get access to it. So in Layer 5 Cloud, on slash catalog page, you get to see all the published designs. You can see, sort them based on the technology and others. Like you can see who all are, making designs and what basically they are doing. So you see them in form of cards. So these are flippable cards where in the back of the card, you can see some of the details about them, like the creator and when they were created. So this is one of the thing. And if you click on it, it will take you to a detailed page. So we will be talking about that. So, in addition to these, on any user's profile, like this is Ritik's, and if you go design tab, you see, his designs. So similarly, like there's clickable card who have detail about the design in the back of them. So, and like similarly, if you click on them, so it will take you to the detailed catalog page. So like you see, there are some of the actions like you can clone it, you can download it, and there are also other options of like deploying. So to gauge the popularity of these designs, it would be helpful if we would be showing those metrics here too. And so this update of mine is about that only. So as you can see, we are listing some of the metrics like how many times it was downloaded and clones and others. So similarly on these detailed pages, it would also be helpful if on back of these clickable cards we could show that. So like this it's right now. So I think there may be suggestions and feedbacks from all of you on the call, so I can better implement in terms of UI UX. But these 20 and 22, they are like W data that's just hard coded, and we have like APIs returning this data in place. So I'll be updating that right after the call. So that was all about the catalog metrics. If any one of you want to add anything or have any question, you can ask right now. So let's wait for 10 seconds.
Have you checked like by downloading or cloning that the statistics is being updated after like ensuring that after a few times?
Yeah, so like I was told that it will take some time for them to update, but yeah, that remains to be tested. Like I haven't tried cloning and then waiting for the change to be reflected there, but yeah, something that I'll be doing after the call. Also, like Uzair, do you mind adding anything to it? Like how much time or
So because like we rely on events and the events table is like it itself is like very big, like around 5 million records. So instead of like querying for every request we are using like materialized views. So these materialized views gets refreshed on nightly basis. So we use like PG cron to refresh these views. So you would expect that it would take around a day to upgrade the metrics, but because like these are like newly added, and some of the events are also newly added, so the count would be like lesser. But as soon as we like days goes by and users start uh, using this catalogs and everything, so like the count will go up, and you will get like some real data. So it would take time to like crunch the data and show to you.
That was helpful, Zach. So, any more question? All right, so I'll be working on the feedback that I suggested in the comments. So, yep, let's go to the next item that is from Sangram. So I'll be quickly checking if Sangram is on the call today. Yep, he is. So, Sangram, do you mind discussing about your items?
So, I am not sure on the context, but I am more of the issue reporter than someone who's trying to fix the problem at the moment. But yeah, I mean, let's go through it. Just give me a second. Right. So, what I want to bring to kind of discussion is that the staging environment has been essentially a bit inconsistent in the way it, is currently responding. So, what happens often is, I have issues with mesh map. So, something what you see right now. And this is, I feel, is happening because of some WSS, issue. Maybe it's trying to connect. I don't know where this domain lives, and how is it routed. How is the connection converted to a WebSocket if it is. So that's the issue with the WSS right now. That's kind of acting as a blocker for me to actively experiment with mesh map in staging, so we can get the cloud native PG deployed through a Meshery design, right? That's the goal. So yeah, I mean, the staging environment is not necessarily something as smooth as the production, I would say, or as the other one. This is something that happens pretty often, and we to address the other question, which I've already answered on the Slack, we are using Emissary as the ingress, and Emissary has a setting that allows you to upgrade your connections to WebSocket. This is the only thing I have found so far that is used to enable WebSockets. Does it mean it supports WebSocket and secure WebSocket? I'm not sure. That's something that remains to be tested. This week I have been a bit bogged down with a lot of work. So yeah, that's those two issues that I brought up earlier on the chat.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I
thank
mean,
you for
I don't have solutions for them yet. It's something that I need to kind of a couple of other things that I've noticed is again, I'm not sure if that's the way Meshery works. Let's say I did an upgrade, right? And I have changed from 40 to 49, for example. What happens is, I believe this is what it is. We have multiple connections getting created. And there was one connection for the initial install that I did, which was 39, if I'm not wrong. I kind of had to delete it to get the dashboard load. I was getting, the dashboard was not loading at all. So I'm not sure if this is a standard process we follow? Should it get automatically removed? And that's not happening in staging. Again, that's something that I don't know how that's supposed to work. So right now, if we look at this is 40, and then this is 49. So I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming these connections are basically this. So every time I do an upgrade, I guess I'll get another connection here. Is that right?
Yes, you're right. So basically, these machinery connections are like not archived, so just that they
So
are like
shouldn't
currently
the
logged in.
older connections, be disabled at least? Because, let's say there's a broken version and that remains as connected like this, and that's gonna, because if we remember the call, right, Yash, and I'm not sure if Yash is here. Me, Lee, and Yash had a call once, and then there was some issue with staging, and upgrading solved that problem actually. So it looks like that particular build had some issue, but then if it remains connected, then it blocks the loading of the page altogether, right? So
Yeah, totally. You should be like archiving or basically changing the status to the deleted or
yeah.
not found or
The
something.
other thing, right? The other thing that I've noticed is this was again, I logged into it right now for this call. I haven't kind of logged into it in a couple of days, and this right now is not really working. So ideally this should show it's enabled and it should have a connection to it. This was working, and this is also something that I've noticed that is inconsistent. I'm not sure if this is only because it's a staging environment and I'm missing some configuration, but that's another thing that I've kind of seen often, that this goes into a disabled state, and then it works automatically after some time.
Yeah, it could be like because our experience with the playground has been like the playground cluster most like always in a connected state. So if you mind like changing the status to from not found to discover and try like machine server against try registering the cluster.
Sure.
It might be
The other thing
reduced.
that I've also okay. Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
Please go on.
Okay. The other thing that I've also noticed is in staging, of course, is this one is 1096.0.1. Okay, this is essentially the internal service IP address of Kubernetes, the default service. But that's not what the IP address it should discover. It should discover, for example, this IP address, which is the private IP address of the host, of the node, of the controller node. And that's how it is in the production playground. So if you look at the connections, especially the kubeadmin config, that will say that it's 1065.18 whatever, right? So it should also be of the same IP range. It was, but the last discovery change or whatever that happened, it went to 1096. So I think we should test this and see if if this is just a fluke or this, or
Yeah,
I
maybe
might be missing something. Like I said, I'm learning. I'm still getting to use Meshery, so I'm not sure. I might be missing out something here.
what you can do is like another way is like you can click on add cluster and try importing that same kube config and see that if Meshery server
Yeah, that works.
identifies that.
Yeah. That part is fine. That part works. But I was assuming since we are installing Meshery on the same server as Kubernetes, my assumption was if it discovers, it should discover the kube config, because the kube config already has a right IP address, right? I showed you just now.
Yeah.
So these are some issues that I have with staging, which is kind of stopping me from getting to the next phase, and it has been a bit inconsistent, right? So anyways, we can pick one at a time, and then it's not that I'm looking at resolving all of them together, but WSS is something that I am a bit interested in, because very often I have this, even if I clear the cache, use an incognito window or use a different browser altogether, I still end up with something like this. Last time I resolved this by upgrading, but we are already at 7.49. I can upgrade. I think we have 51, but I think that's not a stable way of fixing the issue. So maybe we want to look into how this thing is working and all. But if you have any clues and if you can let me know what that is, I can take
Yeah.
that and do some research.
So basically, the way this mesh map or these extensions files work is, so as you complete the login process based on your capabilities, we reach out to GitHub releases for this particular extension and try to download the artifact and dynamically load
Yeah.
these packages. Okay, so it might
Mm-hmm.
be happening that the the, v, the connection from the VM is not able to download the package, and that's why you are seeing this error. Because if it had been WebSocket, I don't, because most of the time in local development or in Playground, we have observed this error when the package itself is not present under the .meshery folder. So this could be one thing that you can try, or the way around to the
So how
workaround
do
would be.
I download that package then if that's something that I have to try, and this is Kubernetes, and I'm not trying to build this as a local development either, right? This is a proper staging environment that we want everybody to use.
Correct. So what you can, like, just for quick workaround or just test it, what you can do is, because you already have a mesh map role, so you can run Meshery locally, and the package will be like automatically downloaded in your local machine dot Meshery slash provider. So you can take that package and try copying it to Kubernetes cluster and see that if this plugin is like loading correctly on the staging environment. Or and also the other issue could be because the staging remote provider may be acting a bit weird, like the staging Meshery cloud is itself like not configured correctly to download the packages or something. And to your first
Yeah.
question
Okay.
about like you are not aware about that WSS staging, where it is coming from. So in the same staging Meshery cloud instance, we have like Nginx server running, which does the WSS termination to WSS and also upgrades the HTTP connection to WebSocket. So I think if I provide you with the configuration and the details about this staging playground configuration, I think you might be able to like work around this issue. So I will get in touch with you.
So I'm not using Nginx, by the way, right?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, we're
Emissary.
not using Nginx here. And again, this emissary is being used purely for the Meshery installation, not the Meshery cloud, the staging Meshery cloud. The staging Meshery cloud, like we have discussed, it still lives
Yeah.
somewhere else, right? Completely hosted separately.
Okay.
So do you still think it's a Nginx issue, maybe at the staging Meshery side? Staging Meshery means I'm talking about this staging Meshery, which is not in Kubernetes. It's, this is what I'm
Directly somewhere
leveraging
else.
now, right?
Correct.
Meshery cloud, yeah.
Yeah, it could be, but like
Because I feel that, yeah, go ahead.
like most of the like uh, because like it is like somewhere else hosted and the WebSocket is for machine staging like is configured in the with the Nginx in the another instance. The other issue could be like if you SSH into Playground prod server, you will also find a similar setup of like using Nginx as a WebSocket to control WebSocket and everything. So there itself, like there would be some, I think, pointers for you so that how you can like replicate the same Nginx within emissary, or like how we are doing that thing.
I'm sorry, you're saying that the Meshery pod is running Nginx?
No. Inside the Playground, the hosted Playground instance for prod, that instance runs Nginx as a system, as a service, not inside a container or everything, just as a hardcore service. So I'm saying that on the 0.1 node or on the 0.2 node. So basically, you can look
Okay.
at those configuration and try to find some pointers around it. So like we could get on a call when you and try to like debug it if possible.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot again from my end, and I'll see if there's something. So is this call happening within Meshery Cloud, or is the call getting initiated from Playground to Meshery Cloud?
This is getting initiated from Meshery Playground to the remote provider. It's from your current staging playground provider.
All right. Okay, I will take a look and I'll see if I can find something. If not, it's up to you developers to fix it. I haven't been doing development for over a decade. I mean, it's still, it put me into a lot of effort into, but yeah, now let me see. And if it's more to do with the configuration, I guess I'm able to kind of, fix that. Was there anything else on the, I think these two were the only things. Yeah, okay, I think that's all from me.
Thank you,
If anyone has
Sangra.
anything to add, I'm open.
So any question or like if you want to ask anything to Sangram, so just wait for 10 seconds and then we can go to the next item. Also, just a quick heads up that I would want to say that anytime you can ask these questions to the contributors in Slack channels too. So there are like respective channels for these discussions. So
Hi, Sudham. You said that you haven't been doing development work for over a decade. Are you calling us? So do you call yourself a DevOps engineer? Is that what you focus on?
See, what I do currently is I work as an advisor for multiple companies. I help them do digital transformation, move to Kubernetes, move to OpenShift, deploy enterprise applications on them, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And as I was saying earlier, I design a lot of solutions. That's what I do. And when I'm designing solutions, I stumbled upon Meshery because I was searching for some keywords, and I found that if I design something on Meshery, I'm able to translate that directly to a cluster, which usually does not happen if you are using draw.io, does not happen if you're using any other solution designing tool because they're not integrated with Kubernetes. It's a cloud native. So that's where I stumbled upon Meshmap. And I'm just trying to, because I found the project interesting, I'm trying to kind of contribute based on whatever experience I have. I'm in my 20th year of work. So over these years, whatever I've experienced, I can do some basic fixing of code, by looking at some errors. I can obviously, I love documentation. So that's where you find me spending a lot of time. I obviously work on DevOps, cloud, security. But most of my work is more now at this stage is more advisory and POCs and telling them this is how it works, telling their engineers how to do it, and then handing it over and then moving on. So and that's what I do, and that's why I have relatively less time and all of that. Anyways, I don't want to hijack the time for this, but
No, thank you so much for
yeah,
explaining. I just wanted to
yeah.
understand
So
your background a bit more. Thank you so much.
no worries, no worries. Yeah, welcome. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
thank you, Sangram. So next up, the item is from Deepak. So Deepak, do you mind quickly discussing your item?
Yep, I'll be discussing that. Basically, we have some relationship, edge mount relationship between the vault, HashiCorp vault and Kubernetes secrets. Uh, I didn't add the description yet, but some of the work is pending though. Let me stumble upon this quickly because yeah, we have some relationship between uh, the vault and secrets. Basically, this is a edge type of relationship because 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 the secrets are mounting towards the HashiCorp vault. That's why this is the edge kind of relationship, and the Rico query here is the edge binding relationship. The selectors are the deny rule is none, and the allow in the allow rule we have a kind of secret, and the model is Kubernetes. The patch strategy is replace the things like a name and namespace, namespace to the uh, to the Hashgraph vault. That's the strategy again. This is the thing. I think I need to add the description here to describe these things. And one more thing is that we can have that uh, all versions as a thing, because only it is supported for this type of version. As models are auto generated, this can help in the uh, future times that you can use this relationship uh, wisely. Yeah, as we discussed in the previous meeting, we were discussing about in the websites meeting, we were discussing about one of the important thing that uh, Sudhanshu and Ritik were discussing about, that uh, centralization of relationships in the mesh map. As we are working from this GitHub, like we are just pushing this relationship schemas. I mean to say, not schemas, but a JSON payload or something like that. We are pushing to GitHub, but still there is a visual kind of thing missing here. If you see that, if you see from here, uh, let's say if I am a maintainer of this repo, I cannot understand that whether this is working fine or not, even though if the things like working proof is asked by the maintainers or someone. uh, but let's say if we want to centralize this thing in the mesh map platform only, like a new feature that designing relationships from whole mesh map, where where you can uh, visualize relationships and see that whether relationships are working fine or not, and ask for approval and review from the mesh map thing only. That is the next agenda of mine. As I said, in the many of them are not in the websites meeting, but still, yeah, that's what that will introduce many new contributors in the relationship sector also, because there are around I think 130 components. There are around many models to come. Let's say if a new user from XYZ company comes and asks for relationships, we need to be able to that state that he need to design his own relationships for his use case. That's the thing we want I want to demonstrate that, because if you see in the relationships models, there are many relationships and there are many schemas for this also. Let's say, let's pick CD, I think.
Sorry to interrupt in middle, Deepak. So, like, is it related to what you are discussing, in the start of your discussion, or like is something that you want to, give? I mean, say as a proposal. So, if that's something that we can, take it in Slack or on other calls.
Yes,
So
yes.
please sound off.
I was supposed to say that this is a kind of discussion, because like how can we improve things like this. That is a kind, then we can get into that proposal stage also. Yep. I think we have couple of models for this and couple of relationships. Let's say okay, let me just pick which has relationship. I think only a handful of things have relationships. Okay, let me pick. Let me pick. I think, yeah. Let me keep pick Kubernetes, because I think we have.
Like Deepak, if you're not completely ready, so maybe we can circle back to you. And
Yep.
okay, yeah, please. So I'll be sharing my screen once again, and then we have
Fine.
next up Ibrahim. So Ibrahim, yep, he's there on the call. So do you mind talking about your item?
Sure, no problem. Okay, I'll be sharing my screen shortly. This my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I was working on 580 on the Meshery Linkerd project repo and 10811 on the Meshery repo. So basically the first part was to upgrade the version of upload artifact action and download artifact action to V4 because that was causing the first CI issue. That got resolved, but currently on this step, on this job of upload results, the artifact job the artifact that's uploaded doesn't the status code is 1, and the issue is in here we have a bunch of download this. Can you see my screen? We have a bunch of pods that were not created: the Linkerd destination pod, Linkerd identity pod, and proxy injector pods. These are not running, and the result coming from here is a 1, and that's why the exit code here is 1 on this finding. I'm looking into who worked on this so that I can have a sync with them and just get more context where these pods are, what spins them up, and why they wouldn't be running. Maybe something in them is making them crash.
Like, did you find any flaw in the pattern file itself? Like, if it is outdated or
There's no from what I've checked, there's nothing wrong with the pattern file. It's let me bring this up. It's these resources in here that are being pulled that don't exist in yes, these existing resources that are being pulled are not running.
yeah. So
And
I
it's
think
specific.
you can have a quick verification around by like running a Meshery server locally, and you can use Meshery CTL pattern apply and apply the same file and try to see like if pods come up on your local cluster or not, because then it would like create the confusion about like if it is an environment specific issue happening or like what exactly is the issue, whether it is the Meshery server itself failing to process the request or some other issue.
I've not tried that, but I'll do that right after. Thank you. Thank you for the suggestion, Musa.
So thank you, Ibrahim. Is that all from your side?
Yes, that's all for now.
Okay, so let me share my screen once again. All right, then we have item from Sudhanshu. So Sudhanshu, do you mind quickly covering?
With like two small items. One is like we have in the workspace in Meshery, we have two things like right now which we can assign workspace designs, and another is environments. So environments were working fine, but we have an issue was having we were not able to assign designs to any of the workspace. The issue was like there was a new prop was introduced here for the permissions, evaluating permissions, which was like so for currently as designing like assigning a design to a workspace doesn't have any keys. So like by default, this was not passed as true, like the permissions. So it was like by default, it was having a disabled state and we were not able to assign any design to this workspace. So which has currently been solved and we can now assign any design to a workspace. So this was a bug. Any questions or feedback on this? So I can. The next one was like normal, like we were when we import any design or filter, we were not having any additional notifications for that. So this PI just adds that notification to that when we successfully design or import a design or filter. I just want to ask, like, Uzair, that do we get any additional like details from the backend side, such as to show in the notification center for the size of the file or kind of any kind of that data?
I think we create the event. We should not add additional message from the UI, otherwise it will have duplicate messages that we are seeing around right now. So like when you import, every action have an event trigger, and server sends that event to the UI, and UI in the notification center you should get an event that there is an import. So to make sure that if you are, I think we do get that event. It might be possible we are not getting them on as a toaster. So
We get event, but like there was asked from me that we doesn't get when we successfully import any designer filter, we doesn't like that event doesn't describe the amount of information it should be.
So like
described.
we should add it in that meshkit error rather than creating a event from UI, because we get then duplicate errors.
That makes sense.
Yes, right.
That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Sudhanshu. So I'll be sharing my screen once again. All right, so we are on top of the hour today, and so in the end, I would like to share this calendar for us. So I'm putting this in chat. So if you hit that, it's a yellow button, so it will synchronize these times to your time zone, and so you will get updates before the meeting starts. So if you want to get overview on the community, there is this newcomers call tomorrow that you can check out, or you can recommend any other folks that who would want to get started with open source and the community in general. So yep, that was all. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next Wednesday if you join. Till then, bye everyone.